All right, everyone, buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into the world of G Cloud 14.
G Cloud 14, that's right.
And let me tell you, if you're anywhere near the UK public sector tech scene, this is something you absolutely need on your radar.
Can't overstate that. It's a big deal.
Huge. And lucky for you, we've been digging through all the nitty-gritty details so you don't have to.
We've got you covered.
We do. So before we get into the weeds, let's start with the basics. What exactly is this G Cloud framework all about?
Right, so imagine this. You're a public sector organization and you need some kind of cloud-based solution.
Could be anything, really. Project management software, data storage, the whole shebang.
Exactly. Now, in the past, finding and buying these solutions was, well, let's just say it wasn't always the smoothest process.
Bureaucracy, paperwork, the whole 9 yards.
You got it. G-Cloud was created to change that. It's essentially a system, a framework, if you will, that makes it easier, faster, and more transparent for these public sector organizations to find and purchase the cloud solutions they need.
Think of it like a giant online marketplace, but specifically for cloud tech, and specifically for the UK government.
Very good way to put it.
And this latest iteration, G Cloud 14, that's what we're really interested in today.
Fresh off the press, or at least almost.
Right, because it's actually replacing G Cloud 13, which begs the question, what's new? What's different? Is it just a fancy new number, or is there some substance behind it?
It's definitely not just a number change.
Yeah.
They're building on what worked in G Cloud 13, but also really trying to refine and improve things.
So cut to the chase. What are some of the big ticket benefits people are talking about?
Well, first and foremost, speed. We've already touched on this, but G Cloud is all about streamlining procurement, making it faster for the public sector to get its hands on the technology it needs.
No more waiting around for months on end just to get approval for a basic cloud service.
Precisely. And then there's the emphasis on innovation. One of the core goals of G Cloud is to give the public sector access to cutting-edge technology.
Because, let's face it, the public sector sometimes gets a bit of a bad rep for being, shall we say, a little behind the times when it comes to tech.
It happens. But with G Cloud, they're really pushing for the adoption of the latest and greatest, things like AI, machine learning, you name it.
And crucially, it seems like they're really trying to level the playing field for smaller businesses this time around. There's been a lot of talk about how G Cloud 14 is going to be even more SME friendly.
Absolutely. And this is huge because SMEs are often the ones driving innovation, especially in the tech sector. But navigating the complexities of government procurement can be a major hurdle for them.
So by making G Cloud 14 more accessible to SMEs, the government is essentially opening the door to a much wider pool of talent and creativity.
Exactly. It's a win-win situation. The public sector gets access to better, more innovative solutions, and SMEs get a foot in the door of a massive market.
Now, all that sounds fantastic, but there's always a but, isn't there?
There's always a bit of mystery, especially at this stage.
Because right now, we only have a partial view of what G Cloud 14 will actually look like. They're calling this the beta phase, which sounds kind of cool and techy, but also a bit vague.
It does, doesn't it? What it boils down to is that they're still hammering out the finer points.
So we don't know for sure what all the specific services offered under G Cloud 14 will be.
Not all of them, no. But we can look at past iterations of G Cloud, see what's been popular, what the trends are, and make some educated guesses. For example, cybersecurity is always a hot topic, so I'd be shocked if we didn't see a lot more in that area.
Right. I mean, that's a given, isn't it? Cybersecurity is paramount these days, and with good reason.
Absolutely. And then you've got things like data analytics, artificial intelligence, all of which lend themselves perfectly to cloud-based solutions. So I'd expect to see those areas fleshed out even further in G Cloud 14.
It'll be fascinating to see what they come up with. Now, all of this is happening on a tight timeline, and I know there are a few key dates people need to be aware of, especially if they're thinking of becoming suppliers.
Absolutely. Right now, we're in the pre-market engagement phase, which basically means the government is opening up the floor for feedback and suggestions.
They're basically saying, hey, we're working on this new G Cloud thing. Tell us what you think.
Exactly. This is the time to make your voice heard if you've got ideas or concerns, and then pretty soon we'll start seeing draft procurement documents being released.
So even more details about how G Cloud 14 will actually work in practice.
Exactly. But the big one, the date everyone needs to circle on their calendar, is February 19th.
Why that date?
Because that's when the official notice goes live on the Find a Tender service. That's the official starting pistol for G Cloud 14.
So if you're a supplier and you want to be a part of it, you absolutely need to be ready to go by February 19th.
No doubt about it. And the good news is they've already got a ton of resources available to help suppliers get up to speed.
We're talking recordings of supplier sessions, detailed Q&As, all sorts of goodies.
It's all about transparency and collaboration, which is a very positive sign.
Couldn't agree more. Now, before we wrap things up, let's bring this back to our listeners.
Yeah.
Let's say you're listening to this, you're involved in the UK public sector in some capacity. Maybe you're even thinking, okay, this G-Cloud 14 thing sounds interesting, but what does it actually mean for me?
Right. Well, the first thing is, even if you're not planning on becoming a G-Cloud supplier, staying informed about this stuff is crucial. The way the public sector procures and utilizes technology is changing rapidly, and G-Cloud is at the forefront of that change.
Knowledge is power, as they say.
Exactly. The more you understand about these developments, the better equipped you'll be to navigate them, whether you're a decision maker, an IT professional, or just someone who wants to stay ahead of the curve. And who knows, maybe G-Cloud 14 will be the catalyst that finally pushes more public sector organizations towards fully cloud-based solutions.
And if that happens, well, that's a whole other discussion.
Indeed it is.
But we'll save that for another deep dive. Until then, stay curious.